Hey, welcome to the tech capital of the world. My name is Bobby Davis. I'm the CEO and founder of Foundry, and I'm joined by Kevin Doyle today. Hey, Kevin, we got some big competition at noon today.
We
We're
do.
going directly against MS Build.
I know. It's us or Satya Nadella. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm
thanks
thinking
for
everyone's
everybody that's
watching
here
us.
instead. I mean, we've got to be more entertaining, surely.
Exactly.
you know, uh,
I
maybe
mean,
he might have more interesting things to say, but you
the
know,
.NET 6 release. He's probably going to launch a new tablet or something.
do they do hardware at Build, right?
I
They
think
do
so.
hardware releases. I think they do. I think they have in the past, right? I think they've
Yeah,
launched stuff there. We can do this
we'll
year.
have to see what they do.
What's it going to be? The Microsoft, I don't know, enhanced water bottle. That's going to be something really strange.
It's not as good as this one, though, Kevin. Full disclosure.
Yeah, which reminds me, actually, I have mine right here too. Look, let's talk about
Yes.
coldest water real quick. If
Shameless
you're
plug.
interested in coldest water, there is a link down below. You can get a coupon and buy one. We still use ours every day,
Yeah.
so if you're interested, you can go do that. So yeah, we're up against Build today. So did start
Yeah.
today. Actually started like the keynote's like now. So you can go back and watch it. Of course, you have to go watch it now. Don't run off.
All right, let's say hello to some people real quick. Sure, we got some.
Yeah, let's say hey. Uh, Let me see here. Some early people here. Let's do. Dennis was here early.
Just raised his hand. I like that.
There you go. Andreas was here early. And then our two moderators are here. Mantis is here, and Ben is here too. So don't upset them.
Hey,
They're the
Ben, what's up?
moderators. They'll hammer ban you if you say anything horrible about us. That's generally my instructions to them: is if anybody says anything terrible about us, just ban them. That's not. But it should be that way. Sean's here too. Hey, Sean. Sean always asks me if we're announcing the date for the release, and we're not today. Sorry.
No, not today, but we're working on it though. We are working on it. There's some assembly going on tomorrow,
There is. I've got a
which
full
means
day
that
tomorrow of doing something
we
like that.
finished recording on one of the bigger projects. So,
Yep.
um, just
Yep.
to let you know, the massiveness of this is like I think in the blog project, it's what 70 or 60 to 70 individual videos.
Something like that. I haven't actually
Yeah,
like
yeah,
cataloged the whole thing personally, but
right.
yeah, it's a lot.
And that's after we assemble it. Then we may have to go shoot some more. But like, it's like making a movie, man. It's just kind of crazy.
It is. It is definitely. There is a lot there. There is a lot there. Hey, Princessa, thank you. Um, let's see who else is here. Kieran is here. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Brian's here too. Oh, a lot of people here. Lodison, Antonio's back. Althea is here. Alberto. Back to that one real quick. Brent's here. And Matthew wants to know, how'd your raid go?
So, Matt, I'm glad you asked. We got to the final boss at 11:30, and then the team decided that they would call it a day.
But you hold on, you had
So,
to do this to get the first day thing by midnight, right? That's the was that
well, no, we
was
had to do it
midnight or
by
was it?
1 p.m.
Oh, but
Sunday. So,
okay.
like, the raid was different though.
Oh, I
Like,
see.
so we had to beat it twice. So we got to the final boss, and they said, "Yeah, we could beat this, but then we got to turn around and do it again in challenge
Okay.
mode." And so they just didn't feel like staying up till 7 a.m. So I don't know.
Which
So
I
if you look
get.
at the overall raid performance, the first time we did this, we got to the first challenge and lost. We couldn't do it.
Yep.
Then we did Deepstone Crypt and we got to like midway through, and then we called it quits at 5 a.m. And then this time we ran from 1 to 12. We got all the way through it. We beat it. The cool part is, Matt, I'm going to throw a raid up, I think tonight. And I believe I can get them back together to show you that we can actually beat it. We beat it last night in like under an hour. We beat it 3 times on Sunday. So like we just didn't do it
Okay.
under
So it is
contract. But
possible we just couldn't do it the first time
oh
through.
yeah, we've done it. We've done it a bunch since
But
then
that's what makes it
already.
kind of
So
challenging though, isn't it too? That's why those
yeah,
things are kind of interesting because you have to do
yeah,
them kind of sight unseen, like, play
yeah.
unplayed kind of thing. It makes it way more difficult to do. You're right. Once you've done it a few times, all that stuff becomes easier.
So now what we've planned is we had a meeting about like what should we have done, and like we played from 1 p.m. to 12 a.m. pretty much.
See, that's
with no
crazy.
breaks, nonstop. And they're like, we need to work in breaks. And so like now we're gonna have like prescribed like, food breaks and things like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
some of the dudes were hungry.
I bet.
So, but it was
Bet.
fun. I mean, it was a lot of
I get
fun. We had a
hungry
lot of
sitting here
fun
for an
doing it
hour.
though. Our group, we had a lot of fun. And then we did do one thing, the Templars was where most of the raid teams got hung up. By accident, we beat challenge mode and Templars on our first run. So like, we did some good things. We just ran out of time. So
Yeah. There's always a next time. Always a
yeah,
next time.
the
There's always
Witch
a new
Queen,
thing
it'll
coming
come
up.
out and then we'll be right there for the Witch Queen. So
There you go. You just get to do it all again. That's funny. Let me see here. It's one quick thing then. So it is build today, and Microsoft did put out a thing this morning with a new preview for .NET 6.
yeah, so .NET 6 is out. I updated my Visual Studio this morning. So we're one of the things that's interesting here is Blazor WebAssembly ahead of time, AOT compilation.
Okay.
Compilation. That's supposedly given us a 5x increase in speed on Blazor projects, which is interesting.
Oh, okay.
So there's this project out there. If you look at this, what the guy's doing here, the guy that's running Blazor, is basically making image editing inside the browser, and he's like masking out that little logo if you run the.
Oh, okay.
So he's got look like a little kind of magic select,
okay.
kind of like you would in Photoshop.
Yeah.
And then bam, so you can see how much faster it was by just doing that. So these, when we talk about WebAssembly, that's the type of project. The reason people are excited about WebAssembly is because of that. You can like build things on the web that you normally couldn't do. So
right.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So this is like a few new things in there to talk about. That just came out this morning, so we haven't had a chance to obviously look through a lot of that stuff.
So I think you'll see a whole suite of tools, Kevin, that will be launched on the web that will give you like Photoshop Lite capabilities. So like, let's say that you're making a tweet or something like that, and you just want to like,
there's some very simple things.
Rotate an image, or maybe
it's normally resize, maybe rotate, a quick filter, maybe mask something out, maybe just take a little bit blemish off something, or something silly in the background or something very simple.
Yeah, you can't do all. I mean, and then eventually someone will probably. I mean, Adobe may do it, may build a Photoshop that runs totally in WebAssembly. We'll see what they do. It makes sense if they can do it.
Right.
Some of the things I see coming down the pipe, I think video editing for sure. You're going to see video editing in the web browser on a WebAssembly implementation. Will it be Blazor? Will it be Rust? I don't know, but like someone's going to do that, especially for YouTube content where you're going to do a cut. I can do a trim. I can maybe add a title or something like an overlay or something like that. And
so right now, YouTube's ability to do that kind of stuff. Let's say, so after this video, what I'll do is with all of our videos, I'll go and cut off the beginning part, right? Because it's boring. Yeah. When you rewatch it, nobody wants to see a countdown at the beginning of a video. They just click off.
Yeah, exactly.
So I always go and cut those off. So the tool built into YouTube right now is so basic. It's almost unusable. Like it's to the point where it's like, you can literally cut off the beginning of a video, you can cut off the end of a video, and that's it. There's no other like... The tools are very, very, very basic, and they're very clunky. So if they can get to a point where that kind of application for something like YouTube comes into play, now we're talking. Because there's not a lot you generally need to do with them. There's some very basic editing things you need to do. It's not rocket science. This is not. You don't need to. You're not making a movie, right? With YouTube videos generally, they're a lot more simplistic.
Yeah, the other big thing that's in Blazor is Blazor Maui. So like Blazor Maui is allowing you to build a desktop app. Primarily, they're saying in .NET 6, this only really applies to like Mac and Windows desktop. It's even though technically you can do it to Android and iOS. But what you can do is you can use web development tools to deploy your UI out to the desktop. And then your .NET will run on .NET, and that can access the full underlying system of the desktop application. And that's very kind of cool. I mean, like, so I haven't tried this yet. This is something new they're just talking about. So that looks, so if you're building a desktop app, now you can use the .NET MAUI for Blazor to build your front end, and then your components we'll be able to access the underlying like low level stuff of Mac OS and Windows OS. It's kind of exciting. And eventually that will also be extended out to Android and iOS. So it's pretty cool.
Cool stuff.
Lots of stuff coming down the pipe for Blazor and .NET 6. So, and then there's a ton of things going on in .NET 6 to just, you know, it's kind of in the weeds, but like there's a lot of stuff
You
going
think
on.
they'll will they give us a date today for that? Probably. Think they'll give us
That's going to be November.
Final?
.NET 6 is coming out in November.
Okay.
Whatever the date is in
Okay.
November.
But maybe they'll give us that date today. Maybe that's that's one of the things.
I think they've already announced that.
Oh, have they?
November
Okay.
15th or something like that. So they have a standard release date, but sometime in November.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So our self-paced course will be out before November, though.
It better be. It will definitely be. I'm like, it will definitely be. Let's talk about one other thing that I saw in the news that I found interesting. We talked about NFTs a little bit here before.
Yeah.
But this is kind of in the video realm too, actually. But if you're familiar or unfamiliar with this video, but the Charlie Bit My Finger video, and you hadn't seen it. So it's a meme. Like you can go watch it on YouTube, right? So this thing has it's a meme video. It has 880 million views on YouTube, right? Since 2007. So the family
must be the kids growing up now, right?
They're older than this now. This is 2015. I saw another video where they're much older than this. They're like teenagers now. They're 15 and 16 now. So they're way older. But they've sold this thing $760,000, right? Just over 500 million pounds, or 500,000 pounds, sorry. And it's being taken off YouTube. So somebody now privately owns this video, this person, or this user.
I wonder if we can sell the one project video for 700,000 pounds.
Something tells me we can't. But like, think about this. So somebody's bought this video. It's now somebody owns it. Does that mean do they take it off the internet? Can I now no longer watch this video somewhere? Is it now?
Maybe it's exclusively on your YouTube channel or something like that. It seems like a lot of money.
That is one thing to do. Like, can you then own it and like license it? Right, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But you could also just own it and remove every other person's like access to this video ever. I don't think that's a good thing.
You license to a museum and people come in and watch it.
It's like, well, no, right. That's the museum version, right? But I'm talking about the version where you just buy it and put it in a private collection, right? This is like somebody buying the Mona Lisa and putting it in their living room, right? I'm not. That seems so weird, like the Charlie Bit My Finger videos to the Mona Lisa. But the theory stands. That's the dumbest thing I've ever said. But the theory stands, right? You buy this digital thing and you own it. I mean, maybe you license it and maybe that's the way to do it. But are you ever going to license it and make this amount of money back on licensing for this video?
I don't think see so, it. Man.
I'm sure this video hasn't made this amount of money on YouTube, even with 880 million views, I'm guessing.
They also get it off as an NFT, though.
But it's an NFT. I don't know.
I don't understand.
I don't know if I'm missing something. Like
you are definitely missing something. Someone has $700,000 into it, so like or whatever it is. But like
right. So there's definitely something to it, but it's like and this is interesting too. Yeah, they can have it viewed by anybody in copy, and this one is different because you technically can't even distribute a copy of it. They own every digital version of it. So what are they going to do? They're going to like hit you with a digital rights thing for you if you like post it somewhere. Like, I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
And is that enforceable by a third party? Because that's the thing too. Like, okay, so the sharing of digital, let's say that it's like movies, right? Movie piracy is probably still rampant. I'm sure it is. It has to be in certain parts of the world because they can crack down on it as much as they want. But can you ever actually really crack down on it? No, it doesn't seem to. It doesn't seem to be. Can you ever go after people? No, they tried. It didn't really work with the whole Napster days, right? They tried to sue a bunch of people. Nothing ever came of it. They got a few 100,000 from a few people and then moved on. It's weird. So does this individual that owns this, can they ever actually enforce their ownership? And who enforces it?
They can.
Who enforces it?
They're going to try.
If it's on some other third-party side that they maybe don't even see, how do they even enforce? It's just I don't know. It's just it's a weird time we live in.
Well, I feel bad because I've never seen the video, so now I can't see it. So now I want to see
until May something 28th. I think.
And go watch it.
Go watch it on YouTube. It's actually a funny video. I watched it this morning again. I was like, oh, this is a funny video. It's actually funny. It's funny. Here's another thing, and let's take the sort of the sex tapes things out of it. But does this mean celebrities could buy videos they didn't want out there, or people? Yes, you could. You could basically if you have enough money, you could clean the internet of all of your images that you don't want people to see.
So someone gets the leaked image, they NFT it, and then celebrity buys
and
it
profit
back.
from it, maybe.
It sounds like ransomware to me.
It does sound like ransom, doesn't it? But if it's a legit, like maybe it's not leaked in the essence that it's illegally leaked. Maybe they accidentally post it somewhere. Somebody then owns it somehow. I don't know. I really
don't know why a celebrity makes these tapes to begin with.
Oh, that's a whole other conversation.
You're just asking for problems. Hey, no one will ever see this. We'll just make it for us. Like, okay,
right. But I'm just talking about like anything in general. Like if you want to scrub the internet of something. So there was a photo recently where a celebrity, it was one of the Kardashian ladies, wanted a photo scrubbed from the internet. It's like, could you just? I don't know. I guess they're the original owner though, but it got out, right? So how does that work? Like, I don't know. I still don't know what I think about NFTs and private ownership of these digital things. Just seems strange.
I like them as like proof of stuff. I like them, and I think that's the broader use of them.
Yeah, we thought about like NFTs for certifications and those kind of things. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
I think that's where it's going to be. Just making them is kind of difficult.
Yep,
they're not easy to make.
Yep. Yeah. So
I
thought that was an interesting story. So as usual, if you have questions, throw them in chat. I will queue them up
in chat,
and we will do some Q&A. If you want to guarantee we get to your question, as always, you can super chat. Otherwise, we'll just go down the list and I will pull them up as I see fit. Here's the first question. Kieran wants to know, what are your suggestions as tips for being consistent in learning coding every day?
So I think every day should be, you need to create blocks of time that you can code in. So like, and you don't have to do coding every single day, but you should have a consistent schedule. I think if you're trying to break in, so maybe that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I do think you need not 1 hour a day. I don't think coding in 1 hour per day is really good enough. But I think definitely.
Oh, well, Antonio, thank you for the super chat.
He's trying to rule the board there. He's trying to get them all.
You mean Al Antonio?
Oh, that's right, Al Antonio. We pronounced his name wrong. We did it wrong again. So, sorry, Al Antonio. The problem is there's someone that works at Code Foundry, the director of education. His name is Antonio, and I'm saying that name a lot. I feel like
hold on. Just to be sure, you said it right. By the way, I'm always the one that says it wrong.
I said it right. Okay, good. Right. Okay, cool.
I just had to correct you to make it mistake.
But back to Gherkin, and we'll get back to Al Antonio. So like, I think you could set up. I think Saturdays, maybe if you're working Monday through Friday, maybe a good long session of 4 or 5 hours Saturday, something like that, and maybe even much as a whole day. And that's what you do during that day, or maybe you divide it into Saturday and maybe a Sunday afternoon, something like that. And then you go back about your life and things like that. And then as you get better at this, maybe you can work in some more nights and evenings as well to accelerate the pace at which you do it. But I think you need to think of it in 3 to 4 hours. It's very hard to accomplish a lot in 1 hour. So that's kind of what I do.
I think that's the issue with it, isn't it? You see this like the 100 days of code thing with the 1 hour stipulation thing kind of made it made it kind of big, right?
Yeah.
While 100 days of code is great, it needs to be more than an hour each day, and then that becomes kind of unsustainable. So like you said, you might just get your head wrapped around a problem in an hour, and like you may be at the point of solving it, you're like, oh, I'm done for the day, and you come back tomorrow, and it's like you got to almost start all over again. That's how your brain kind of works, right? You got to sort of be in it to be kind of, working it through. You can't leave it and come back to it. It just makes it way more difficult. So yeah, as you said, not necessarily an hour a day, but set time aside that's multiple hours over 2 or 3 days in a week.
Yeah, so maybe Saturday coding sessions would be my advice.
Yep.
Cool.
You don't want to get burned out too. That hour a day thing might actually burn you out.
Also, I see a question here from Igor about
Yeah, I have that one queued up.
interpreted code. Put that one in there if you see that one in there.
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah.
I got it. I got it.
I
I
just
will
happen to
do that.
see that blazing through here. So like, and it's on Blazor. So like, I just want to talk about like
We'll do that
what
one
they're
next.
talking about.
We can do it next. Ego said, okay, how is Blazor WASM going to be fast compared to JavaScript and WSAM code? There is still just to be interpreted because there is no JIT to browser. And how are Microsoft going to embed JIT compiler into browser in the future?
So Igor, what I was talking about, one of the releases in .NET 6 is it's called ahead of time compilation, and now it is truly compiled in there. So like it's not, but it's still even comparatively looking at even with the interpreted code like you're talking about. When you look at comparing it to JS and WASM, WASM's way faster. And now Blazor WASM is exceptionally fast with like 5x improvement. So like I think that you're going to see these kind of really fast for things that are computational problems like video editing, image editing, things like that. You can't do those in JavaScript. So it's very fast. But just read about that announcement and you'll understand more kind of what they're talking about.
Is that how you say that, by the way? Awesome.
WASM.
Okay.
That's what I say. WASM.
Okay. I've just always seen it and just used WASM. I don't know, but I guess that makes sense. That's funny. Chad says it takes at least an hour to find an answer on Stack Overflow.
Sometimes it does, man. Sometimes you never find one. So like, yeah, I know.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Rito has a question. What do you think of the future of Django? And greetings from Colombia. And greetings to you too.
I think all of these things have a reason for coming out. So like there's always going to be a market for these kind of these other frameworks based on other languages. So I think it has a future. The question I have is this, and I think this needs you to ask yourself. If you're breaking in and you need to learn one thing to break in with, which is what I think you do.
Sorry.
We are working as hard as we can day and night. So like it's going to come soon. So like it's coming soon.
Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, thanks for the super chat, Antonio. So like, but what I think is all of these have a future. The question is, if you're trying to break in, how big is that market share of the Django apps? So in different pockets of the world, so maybe in Colombia is different than it is in the US. I don't know. I don't live in Colombia. So like maybe those types of sites are getting built there all the time and has a great future there. If you look at the US market and broader, maybe even UK and London, and look at like what are the predominant web frameworks for building websites, and there's several out there that are bigger in market share than Django, or the Django. So you're looking at things like React, Angular, and then ASP.NET. You can even look at something like a JSP or Spring MVC, things like that that's built on Java. But I think in general, all of those are larger than Django. So does that mean it's useful? Yes. Does it mean it's useless? No. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't learn it. If you had to learn one thing to get you a job, I think that still is ASP.NET. If you learn that, you have a better chance of breaking in. And then you can expand and look at some other frameworks that are built on other languages, and maybe one of those you like it better and you're more productive in it, and you just like it, and then you can compete more readily for those jobs with other people that have more experience than you because you've already broke in, you've got your 1 to 2 years experience, and then break out. None of these things should be looked at as holy grails or things that you can just you have to get like religious about it. It can be only done one way. I don't think that's true. I think all of us specialize and we can do things. Having said that, when you look at React and Angular, even in the .NET 6 preview, they're continually improving even the templates in that, trying to build out how we do it. So I would look at, if I wanted to build things in a JavaScript front end, I definitely think the future right now, not the future, but the today right now, that is React and Angular if you're building a JavaScript front end. ASP is supporting that with ASP controllers on the back end. And then in the future, it's if you're looking at something forward thinking, I would look at a WebAssembly framework. So that's like if you want to like see what's coming next, what's the future. I think it's going to be something like Blazor or a Rust implementation in WebAssembly.
And here's a direct related question to this too.
Yeah.
So we're learning
If you're already coding, absolutely. Yeah, you should be. Yes. If you're already coding and you're coding for a living, you should be. If you're trying to break in for the first time, WebAssembly is not there quite there yet. But you'll see increasingly more and more of these will be requiring these skill sets to do this. Just because people are going to see that there's a lot of benefits to it.
Time for a plug. Enduro wants to know, hey, what would be the best place to learn C# in your opinion?
Learn.coderfoundry.com or come to our bootcamp. So like that's what we think is going to be the best place. So
and you
self-plug.
Can find that right there.
Yeah. It's not released yet, but it is coming soon.
I'm gonna say it's not prime time yet. Summer 2021. Somebody asked. Yeah. I get this question all the time too. It's like, so when's summer 2021? I'm like, we haven't put a date on it yet. It just says summer 2021. Like, is it July 1st? Like we haven't put a date on it yet.
Yeah.
Is it June 17th? Like we haven't put a date on it yet.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So trust me.
We will soon though. We're going to be able to predict a date here soon.
Yeah. So trust me. When we're ready to put a date out, we will be yelling it from the mountaintops.
So two major things that we're working on are the Bly project, our major C# projects, and then our major bug tracker project. Those are two like massive things that we're trying to assemble now. So we've got them recorded. So it's a lot of work. We'll get there.
Oh, Jen's accusing you of distance for everything. Just ASP.NET for everything. Well, kind of. I mean, we've made videos about like you can ASP.NET everything. So
you can .NET everything, C# and you can. But I want to be clear though, Jens. If there's some other way that you can do this and they're paying you to do it that other way. I mean, like I'm not. This is all about for you on the YouTube channel here. What I'm trying to do is encourage people to learn to code and break into the marketplace. If you're asking me what you should do, which people do, I mean, like learn ASP.NET. I think that's a better way to break in. If you want to do it a different way, by all means do that. I do want everyone to be careful though, as certain languages do have wide adoption in certain industries. So like when you're looking at things like Python, that's primarily in the data science arena. So like when you talk to people doing data science, that's what they're using. And so the adoption is very broad there. And then you're like, frameworks we love, and you see PHP up there and it's like, are you doing data science or not? Are you trying to build mobile apps? Well, that's not what you should learn. I mean, it's like you should learn like something else for the right mobile apps. Yeah. And I do believe when you talk about Python, there's better ways to build websites. Doesn't mean that you can't build it with that. It just means as my first time out, what should I learn to get a job? And I think that's C# and ASP.NET. So React is another option that you can learn. I definitely think even if you go down the React route, you should learn Web API with C#, for sure.
But you've also got to be wary of things that come and go as well. Think about think about 4 years ago, every bootcamp on the planet was teaching Ruby, with the exception of us.
Right,
exactly. At the time, it seems everyone. And then it was like it just kind of went away kind of fast. Yeah. So you got to be wary of that too, and that's just a gamble you're gonna have to take.
But I mean, you don't have
with
to
the exception
really
of with the exception of
I mean, like,
C#.
it's not a gamble. It's like, geez. I mean, look at the .NET preview article we post in there, and you'll see like the amount of energy and effort that they're putting into this.
Yeah.
And you can tell this thing's gonna be one of the players in the marketplace. It just is. I mean, like, there's no way that an open source library can keep up with what Microsoft's doing on there. Right. Having said that, Microsoft's adopting Rust too, man. I mean, like so like if you're into Rust and things like that, I know Microsoft's going to support that heavily, and we'll see kind of where that goes over the coming years. So,
right. Okay, let me see. Roy has a question. So I guess in his market, he's been seeing .NET web jobs from recruiters, and almost all of them require Angular. I like React. Okay. But .NET Angular is where the jobs are at. Indeed reflects the same thing. What do you guys think? Yeah, we've seen it the other way too, though, haven't we, with more React?
Yeah, I've seen it both ways. It depends on when you're looking. I mean, Troy, so like I don't think you can go wrong either way with Angular or React. I do think that when you're looking at .NET web jobs, what they're looking for is web API, and they're building it with either Angular or React. Both of those templates are in Visual Studio.
Right.
So, and Angular goes through popularity ups and downs. And so don't look at popularity. What I would say is pick one of those and roll with it, and then you can. We recruited for a job this week for a .NET job. And so if you're a .NET developer and you live in PA, reach out to me. But that's React. I mean, so it's ASP.NET MVC, it's React on the and some of it React front end, some of it web API on the back end. And so they're doing React, and it's a large project. So so I'm interviewing a lot of people that have Angular, and they're gonna have to learn React to go in to do this. So I don't think you're gonna be hurt either way, knowing either one. So.
Right. Okay. This is a YouTube kind of question, but we'll look at it real quick. Say that.
What's that?
Okay, the question, I just lost it. The question was, do we set up alerts for subscribers? No, we don't. It's not up on the screen. I couldn't find it again. It's sitting there somewhere. Somebody asked if we set up alerts for subscribers. We don't. We have some little subscriber boards. You have yours behind you there?
Yeah, man.
So subscriber board behind you there.
65.9. So
yeah, we don't set it up for individual ones because it just you get a lot of them. Not to boast on it, but it'd be ridiculous. They'd just be dinging all the time.
Yeah.
And I have one of those things too. I have it sat in front of me. I get to kind of keep a track of what's going on there. But that's
So appreciate you subscribing though. Thanks.
Yes, definitely. Malik wants to know, hey guys, do you think learning DevOps can help with becoming a well-rounded .NET?
I think if you're already being a .NET dev, you're already doing it. Learning DevOps can be very beneficial to your career. Specifically workflows inside of AWS and Azure. I think it can definitely help you.
Right.
But just trying to break in as just DevOps, I don't know if that's really a good career choice when you have no experience whatsoever. I think moving over to that after you've been coding for a while is something that you can do. But learning how these things work and how these workflows are put together, I think is very beneficial to your career for sure. I hope to help, Malik.
Okay. Jensen said, as a newbie, I find .NET Framework versions confusing. Well done, Microsoft. Slapping on core at the end of it is not distinguishable. Agreed. Should I go .NET or .NET Core? Web app. Microsoft messing with my brain.
So, Jens, they do have a naming problem. And so right now, what you can talk about is there were two versions, .NET 4.5, okay, and then there was .NET Core, which was a rewrite of the .NET 4.5 framework from the ground up. So it started out as .NET Core because they just used the core parts of .NET and they didn't port everything initially. And that took them several years to get over that. And that went through some versions. And you had 1, 2, and 3. And then last November, it was .NET 5. Okay? Because that number is bigger than 4.5.
And that is literally, and by the way, that is literally what Scott Hanselman told us.
Right.
That is the genuine reason, because it's bigger than 4.5.
Right. So so right now, it is .NET, and so the word core still comes around. They call it .NET 5 Core. That's what the industry has kind of adopted it, calling it, because there is still a .NET 4.5 framework that's going to hang around for a really long time. Okay. And so, but you can think of it today, when we talk about .NET today, we're talking about .NET 5, and we're talking about .NET Core. So you definitely, you need to build a .NET Core web app. And then it's the version that you're going to be on, which is currently right now, the real version right now, the latest version is 5. 6 will come out in November. 7 will come out the year after that, and 8 the year after that. So, I think it's just .NET 5 at this point. That's what I call it.
Yeah, and I think that's the way to go right now. If you're learning something right now, that's what you're learning, right?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Carlos says there's two questions built into one here. How do you deal with Blazor taking longer to load compared to React? And second, ASP for SEO. How do you deal with that? I guess those are two very different things. But
So, I mean, it depends on what you're doing. I mean, I would look at, and there's a lot of things like lazy load and things that you can look at. I don't know if, and Blazor does have to download some things. So when it's up and when it may be the first startup, it takes longer to load. I wouldn't worry about that necessarily. I would worry about like, what are the things that I'm doing to build my app with? Number one, object-oriented development with C# in the back end is very, very cool compared to something like JavaScript. And then once it's loaded in, what can you do compared to JavaScript projects? And that's really where WebAssembly is taking over. Now, understand this is that the industry, this isn't just Microsoft, the industry thought it necessary to put WebAssembly in the browser to give us more capabilities of writing code and doing things on the browser itself that you couldn't do with JavaScript. So there's two languages in a browser. So you have JavaScript and you have WebAssembly. And it doesn't mean that your talents are like lessened upon because you're doing JavaScript now. I don't want you to think that. And so a lot of people are debating this. I don't want to learn this WebAssembly thing, and therefore they must tear it down. I think what we need to look at is we need to investigate these things going forward and see kind of where it's going and not necessarily where it's at today. And so maybe there is a situation where you're like, hey, my React thing is just better than trying to rebuild this in Blazor, and I like what I'm doing in React. And that's perfectly logical and perfectly fine. But as developers, you need to look at these changes when they happen. And so like when these changes happen, it gives you opportunities as a coder to take on different projects. So I don't know what he means by ASP for SEO. I'm not sure what he means by that.
Maybe it's like SEO within ASP. Is there a thing there? I don't know.
Or is he talking about like ugly links or something like that? I'm not sure.
Yeah, not sure.
There's ways to deal with that with routing and MVC.
Okay. Sure.
All right, we'll get to the next one.
Okay. Mohammed wants to know C++ or C# for beginners.
So here's what I do, Mohammed. I figure out what I want to build. All right. What do I want to build? Do I want to build a website? Do I want to build a desktop app? Do I want to build something that works embedded? So C++, embedded engineering, desktop-focused apps, high-performance multi-threading, those types of scenarios, electronics, that's kind of where that's going to roll. C#, general-purpose coding language, desktop, mobile, web. I think you have more of a chance to break in the C# for a beginner. But if you're an engineer, classically trained engineer on the back end, then maybe C++ is the right thing to learn if you're picking up coding. But C# definitely is going to give you more chances across a wider array of workloads to break in. And they're different languages too, and they just do it differently. So like, I think you have to pick one or the other if you're just learning one. I think C# is better.
Yeah, and this question kind of has the exact same answer too, but it's posed in a different way. But when you started learning Python a couple of days ago, it's just any better programming language for beginners. Again, this maybe not better, but again, the same answer applies to that exact question.
My question is, do you want to do data science or not? Like, what are you trying to build? That's the thing.
Yep.
And once you figure out what I'm trying to build, then start building those things. Learning to code without any kind of like no target and go, well, I don't know what I'm building.
Right.
To code
you're right. I just want to learn to code. Like that's such an academic pursuit. I mean, with no goal.
I think you have to build something. And so like, you figure out what you want to build. I want to build a mobile app. Okay. You're not going to do Python for that. You're just not. I mean, like, you're not going to do it. And if you did, no one's going to use those skills in the industry. So like, you just need to learn whatever the broadly adopted frameworks in the area that you want to build in, adopt those. It just so happens with C#, you can build mobile, you can build web, and you can build desktop, which covers the three main things that you're going to do. Data science, okay, we're going to give that up to Python right now, but I can tell you that Microsoft's working on ML.NET, trying to make C# the preferred language for that. That may take them years to overcome that, but they're going to make data science workloads easier to do. So more programmers will come into that arena, and not necessarily being classic data science people, and they'll use C# to build out these apps. And so, like, as data science becomes more easier to do, more prevalent, it can leave the university per se or the research per se, and it's just like it's the VP of sales saying, "Dude, give me some insight into all of our data. Can you do that?" And then more products will come out where they say, "Man, if I could just train a data set to do X, then I could build a product on top of that. I already know how to build the product. I just need to," and that's where you're going to see ML.NET and C# and those kind of things pushing Python to the side because they're going to make it easier to do. But I could be wrong, and Python will always be in data science, and that means that same programmer would learn Python. But as it sits today, depends on what you're trying to do. I don't know what you're trying to do. I hope that helps.
There you go. Ben wants to know, did you hear a couple of months back that you were writing a sequel to the book?
No, not right now.
Didn't we have a name? Did we throw around a name?
Did we have a name for it?
We did.
I think we were joking around. I forgot about it.
We were joking around, and somebody suggested another name, and it was such a great name, and I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah.
But it's not. You're not currently like secretly writing this that I don't know about, are you?
No, I'm trying to get the self-paced course out. Maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe that's a goal for next year. What is it? Just breaking the code 2? What can it put?
Exactly.
Breaking
the code again.
Breaking the code again. Exactly. Breaking more code. It's
breaking more code.
I don't know, but no, it's not something we're working on right now.
Yeah.
But we did talk about it before. I do remember that. So Jack Sparrow. Oh, cool. I think it should be out in the seas somewhere, or over at Disney on the ride. What do you expect from a junior front-end developer when you want to hire him or her? Should he be master of pure JavaScript or comfortable using a framework?
I'm going to go on the thing about not what I would hire, but what I think the industry would want. I think
give us both, actually. I'm interested.
Yeah. So I think for me, we would be looking at, can you use the framework and the tooling that we're building the app in? That's what I would be more.
Okay. So if you were building something with React or whatever, you'd want to be like a portfolio with a bunch of React stuff on there. You'd be like, okay, I know you can do this. That's a good match.
Especially if you're a junior front-end developer and it's your first job, I want you to know, like, so in other words, like, it's going to take you longer to come to speed on React than it would be for a senior dev that says, oh yeah, I've done Angular before, and you're doing React, I can switch over to that. I think that come up to speed on that isn't nearly as hard as someone that hasn't never done a framework at all. And so you've got to know JavaScript anyway to be able to do something like React. So you're going to have to know both is what I would say. You're going to have to be, and a master is a word that I don't really equate to anyone. There's very few masters on the planet anyway when I talk about. You should have a level of competency with JavaScript, knowing how to manipulate the DOM. I would ask questions like, hey, how do we get the value from a text box? If you know what document.getML ID is, how do I loop over elements in an array, those kind of things. And then we would go into more React specific things like how React works. So, all right. Hope that helps, Jack.
Cool. Got a couple of book name suggestions. Share with you right here. See how you feel about these.
Annihilating the code.
Or you're gonna like this one. Ben's one. Snapping the code. The Thanos approach.
Snapping the code.
That's a good one. Man, I wish I could remember what that one was, because the one that got suggested before was legit like, man, that might be the next name. That might be the name of the next book, because it was so good. I just don't remember what it was. Yeah. I feel bad for not remembering now. I don't know if I wrote it down somewhere even. I think we've talked about this a little bit, but just to add future plus the same answer, I guess.
Yeah, so it's ASP.NET, I think. I think that's the framework that's dominant. I mean, I like it. That's what I use. There's other frameworks out there, React, Angular, even ASP.NET, when you're talking about ASP.NET, we're also including into that web APIs. So when you look at the types of things that they're doing with web APIs, it's exciting from the Microsoft camp. So like now we have, and I don't know if you've read through that thing, but the .NET 6 preview talks about mini web APIs where you're having a lot less boilerplate code to throw up an API that just works. So I think those are the things that are exciting for a lot of developers. So, I think it's ASP.NET. I think that's what you should learn.
There you go. I'm going to jump a little bit out of order here because I really like this question. It's not one we often get. DreamHack wants to know, for an interview, do you advocate firing up your laptop before you go in or fire it up when you get in there in order to showcase your portfolio?
Okay. Do you have an SSD?
That's true. If you have an SSD, yeah, it's just like it's not going to making it from wake to turning on is going to make much of a difference anyway.
Yeah. So here's the worst thing you can do in an interview, Drew. And you're like, hey, you know what? I could show you that right now. You mind if I show you my portfolio? And then you crank up in your laptop and it pushes start and it's got to do all these things, start up the services. And it takes like 2 to 3 minutes. Will seem like 30 to 40 minutes to the interviewer. And like, dude, don't worry about that. Let me just continue to ask you questions. So I would fire it up. Not only would I fire it up, I would have, if I'm running something like Visual Studio or I'm using a compiled site, it's already up on the screen. So when I pull it up, it's like, bam, it just comes up.
Yeah, I agree. You don't even want to like open up the app like in the thing. You want it to be ready to go. You kind of know what your demo project already is. You're going to push them towards that thing anyway, so it can be a bug tracker. That should be ready to go. You should even have it like pre-ran. Like it should be like, it should be just ready to go and you're just like waking it up.
And Drew, the thing that you need to think about this. You need to have a prearranged demo before you do it. And I remember talking to a musician one time, and he put on concerts, and he said that even in the musicians, and he's pretty prominent. So like, they would have orchestrated like chaos. In other words, like they would do things that they know they would get the result, but it would be planned out ahead of time. In other words, but it looked like, oh, we're just going to sing another riff. Are you with me, Chicago?
Right.
He'd already done that. Right. That's already practiced. You need to be practiced, and so the way you do this is you basically say, that's a great question. That's a fantastic question. It just so happens that I have an app that answers that question. Can I share that to you? And it looks like off the cuff that you're just doing this, but you are practiced in this. It is, it's prearranged chaos. This is kind of how he arranged.
There you go.
That's what he called it.
And here you go. Ben used this in practicality too. So he just had an interview, got there early, booted up his Mac, had everything pulled up for when the interview started. Which if they put you, so here's the other advantage. A lot of times you'll get to an interview and like if you do get there don't get there too early, but get there 5 minutes early, right? They may put you in a conference room or something and you're there on your own. You can do probably what Ben did. It's just like literally get your laptop out and sit it on the desk. Like you don't even have to pull it out. You're ready to roll before the interviewer even shows up. That's an even better advantage to have.
And if you have a notebook with you, which I always carry a notebook with me everywhere I go. And so like I'm going to have this kind of notebook everywhere I go. And so like when I sit down to any interview meeting, I'm going to put this down. So if I put that down on a piece of paper, you can bet your bottom dollar my points that I want to talk to someone about are written down on that piece of paper. Now, if I'm worried that someone would see that ahead of time, then I know this sounds kind of crazy, Kevin, but I would like encode it a little bit where it just says, just to trigger my memory.
Yeah.
So like, might say step 1, 2, 3 or something like that. But like, I don't have to like give away that I'm pre-planning what I'm doing. But I typically in every meeting, I have an agenda that I want to get to and talk to people about. And the interview should be no different.
And this kind of comes, this kind of question asks that too. Do I have to, and I'm guessing that's what this means. Do I have to know how to pull out from I don't know what mind codes means, but in interview. But I'm guessing that's sort of along the lines of, do you have to remember everything in the interview? You have to be like a walking dictionary.
So people approach interviews that way. I see students even coming out of our boot camp, like looking at like C# flashcards. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, you don't have to remember everything if you demo it. The
Right.
demo is your memory.
That's
The thing
the
that you
memory.
wrote is your memory. That's the thing that you can show, and you're like, oh yeah, that's how that works. So I remember now. And I'm looking through the code. I mean, like, so once we get them into looking at the code, we went from closed book test to open book test now. So now everything that I've written down in the code is available for me to peruse, and I don't have to do that from memory.
It's like it is like
So
showing up to the exam with your notes.
exactly, with your notes or the actual answer. I mean,
Or
like,
the
it's
actual
like,
answer. Right. It's
the A+ answer.
Well, here you
Like,
go. Look at this too. Ben got the job too. Congrats, Ben.
I think
All right,
everyone
awesome.
that demos
Congratulations.
pretty much wins, unless your
Yeah.
demo's terrible. But like if your demo is on point and your demo's great, you're gonna win. And so like you just need to know, come in there and say, oh, I've got the demo during this interview. Now some people are just good on the cuff. They're just good without a demo, Kevin. They can just do
Right.
it. But most of us can't. We get nervous. We forget facts. We forget things, and we just can't remember what we did. Show code. I promise you, it'll improve your chances of winning.
Yep. Okay. And I think Ben already answered this with the video in chat, but we talk about it real quick anyway. Tell me 5 projects you think can make a fresher stand out compared to others. We can tell you one.
Tell you one.
And I tell you why we can tell you 1 and not 5.
Yeah.
We had this discussion internally, didn't we? When we made the one coding project video, our original video, we're like, let's make like a video where there's like, I think we came up with 3 or 5. We're like, let's do 3 or 5 projects that people should have on their portfolio. And then we sat down and we're like, why do you need to have 5? Like, what if you had 1 amazing project? Is that the same thing? And is that good enough? And we're like, well, yeah, it totally is.
You're only going to be able to show 1 during an interview anyway, typically, unless you're really skilled at, working around the questions and knowing where the questions are directed.
Right.
I would say the second project I would build is a blog. I would build a blog and become a writer, and I would write about stuff.
Which serves multiple purposes.
Serves multiple purposes.
Yeah, but if you have 1 amazing project that you can talk about, and you have to be able to talk about it in depth, that's going to be enough. So yeah, I think Ben already put the video in that. I'm sure it was the one coding project video. Oh, there's probably a couple of others we've done too for some JS project you can do as well. That kind of stuff.
But blog, bug tracker, stuff like that. And there's a lot of, watch that video and watch it all the way through. I mean, it's about building the bug tracker, but like some of the comments we get are people that didn't watch the video. In other words, like they want me just to name check the project. And what I'm telling you in that video is like, not only should you build this project, here's why, and here's how you can use it to your advantage during the interview process. So like, I think that's really the reason it's got almost 800,000 views now is because of the reasons behind why you build it. Not necessarily.
I think it's almost 900,000 now.
Is it 900,000?
It's almost 880 something. I think something like that.
So
I don't know. I don't keep super tracking it. Man, people are calling you out for your paper notebook, and I will say I also use a paper notebook.
Oh, what did they say about my paper notebook?
It's look, it's Jen says it's a notebook tree version. I actually prefer a paper to a digital. I tried a digital notebook before, and I didn't like it as much. The paper one,
I don't
something
like
about
it.
The tactile thing of writing, and then
And the speed at which you do it.
Yeah, and it makes some kind of weird trigger in my brain, and I don't know if that's because I grew up doing it that way. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be a generational thing. I'm not sure, but it works for me, so I'm sticking with it. I have a whole other thing back here, like this little thing right here. This thing with a little red spine on it is a whole bunch of new notebooks that I haven't opened yet.
Yeah,
I use them all the time.
I do too. I use them quite a bit.
Yeah. Yep.
Indiana Jones carried a notebook, Kevin.
Oh, so there we go. It must be good. What are we gonna do? Get a whip next? It's like, let's see. Oh, this is an interesting thing. So MSP wants to know: is 3D websites for the front end worth it? Means it will attract recruiters. So I've seen some of these. Have you seen some of these portfolios with?
I would have to see what he's talking about. Maybe. I mean, but like,
remember the one before where I'm sure you've seen it. It was one with a website where there was a little car that drove around in a 3D environment, and you had to take it to a thing, and then it showed you like the guy's portfolio and stuff. And it's like,
okay,
it was interesting, but yeah, I don't know. It didn't make me think any better of the portfolio.
So sometimes you spend all this time and it's kind of cool, but it's hard to use or it takes too long to
I
do
think
what
that
you
was the
want to do.
issue. I think that was the
Yeah.
issue. It was its UI ended up being bad because it was
Yeah.
this experience of like it was novelty for a second, and like, but if I actually wanted to dig into the rest of the information that was there, it felt cumbersome.
Right.
So good or bad, I
Probably
don't
not.
know. It could go either
Probably
way.
not.
I
I mean,
mean, yeah,
maybe.
probably not because it's going to be much harder to execute really well. I think that's the other
Yeah.
issue. You got to make something that's really, really great that also takes into account what people expect to be,
Yeah.
front end. Like if you
Right.
sacrifice all of common UI for the sake of it just being in 3D, then no, that's really bad.
Yeah.
People will just click off it. Also, MSV, just real quick. Yes, I do see your white duck, but only in YouTube chat, not in the backend chat. So, but I do see it. And thank you for being
Yeah.
a channel member. That's how you get that little white duck. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Little duck.
Okay. Here's something. So Jens also has another question. My friend and I got a real live desktop app project. Cool. Looked at WinUI, WPF, WinForms, and WPF seems most promising. What are your thoughts? WinUI even had issues even on the template project.
I think it's
What are you doing for
WPF
desktop
right
app?
now. If I was starting right now, that's what I would do.
Okay. And that
That's
seems
what
to
I
be
would
the
do
way
right
that
now.
they've gone to.
Yeah.
So just to confirm your choice, WPF's the way to go. Let me see. Bayless Codes. Thank you for the question. Says, since C# is used heavily in Unity, and we are gamers, is there a possibility of adding a C# Unity course down the line?
Way down the line. I am interested in it. It's finding time to do it.
Yeah,
I've
it's not on the
actually,
current roadmap, is it?
nah, and I've been Unity certified. I went to a course and went to a week boot camp and took a Unity course and got my certificate. I would like to build a game one day. There's a lot of things I want to do with Unity in the VR fronts. So if I did it, it would be more around AR and VR if I did a course around it because it would be built around a thing that I built. So that's kind of where I would go, but not right now. I think game building games is cool. I mean, like it's very fun. I think you can even more now. You can break in as an indie even more than you could say 5 years ago because of Steam. So there's just a lot of more opportunities even as an indie to break in. You don't have to work on a AAA game to make a living
Right.
doing this. So, but good idea, good gameplay mechanic, figure out the look and feel of it. You can build it in Unity for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Rinka wants to know, this is good. So what has to be done on this one project? Front end, back end, Middle Earth with like or we did. So it's funny because when we came up with that, the one project was obviously we talked about we were going to do 3 or 5. We're like, no, let's just do one. And the one project, and the thing that immediately stuck in my mind when we said one was Lord of the Rings. So I designed the card around the Lord of the Rings theme, and it's kind of stuck. And I think that's partially why the video's actually done kind of well.
The card.
which is really strange, but there you go. YouTube is a weird place. So yeah. Let's see, a couple more here. Troy wants to know, do you find benefits to touchscreen SSD laptop or not necessary on buying a new one soon? You have had a touchscreen one? Yeah, the Surface is a
Yeah, so my
touchscreen, aren't
Surface
they?
Book was touchscreen for a while.
Do
My
you use it?
MacBook is not.
Yeah,
Here's
do
the
you miss
thing,
that?
though. I do not miss it at all because
Okay.
all touchscreen does is make your screen dirty, and so
Yeah.
you know I
Yeah.
don't want to have smudge marks all over my screen that I'm looking at. So
It's weird that we kind of accept it on a phone, isn't it?
yeah,
But we're very picky about it on like a larger laptop, and even on a tablet, it becomes kind of like acceptable, kind
yeah,
of. Although I still hate it too. I don't sticky fingers on the screen. Just
yeah. So the worst thing you do is you're coding up. You're like, oh, okay, public class, and you type it in there, and you're like, why is that so blurry right there? Oh, that's peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah,
Get the
exactly.
hell
Oh, that's my leftovers from lunch yesterday. Oh, that's gross. Yeah, I don't miss that. I think it's kind of weird, and I think the fact to until this point that Apple has stayed away from touchscreens.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a it's a choice, right? This is not a technology thing. Trust me, they could throw one in a heartbeat, but they don't.
They invented it. So.
Exactly. But they don't, and they never have. And I think there's a reason behind that. I think it becomes a usability thing. I think it's right. I don't think I don't see myself using it. I had one of those the HP 360s with the touchscreen on it. I don't think I ever touched the screen. I actually forgot it was even touchscreen at one point.
Right.
I accidentally caught it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is a touchscreen laptop." I forgot. Like it just wasn't in my kind of like my user cycle as a user. I just didn't. It wasn't intuitive to kind of touch it. So
and it could be that Troy, that I'm a coder too. So like the things that I do, and specifically. Or even like video editing, Kevin, you would never want a touch screen interface for video editing because like the keyboard commands are just so good. Like you're just like
exactly.
You never go I'm going to drag this playhead right here. No, you're using the keyboard to go through it. So like it's the same way with coding. You're on the keyboard. You're not really going to touch the screen to open a file or something.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's useful. I don't think it's very useful to me. But hey, I mean. Surfaces are all touch, so
they are. But I'm also wondering how many people actually use the touch part of their Surface. I mean, Microsoft really seems to ham it up. They actually talk about it a lot on their commercials when they're saying like, that Surface versus the Mac, and they're like, oh, touchscreen, it's not. It's like, yeah, but that's by choice, and that's not like it's like it's by choice. It's by design.
Yeah,
kind of interesting. Okay, one more question here. Andre wants to know. You do a lot of Googling in your job.
Yeah, man. Especially during coding, like I'm Googling a lot.
And I think that's the question. Like as a coder, how much are you Googling?
Yeah.
I mean, every problem.
Sometimes I just, for whatever reason, can't remember the syntax, the simplest thing. Like, what is that again? And I'll just Google it up there real quick. And there it is.
Right. I think it's a very, very, very common thing. I think a lot of people have stories around that where they go to their first job thinking they've, they don't know anything, they have imposter syndrome, and they can't remember half of these like things, and they go and ask a senior, and he just Googles it right in front of you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of how it works. Yeah, you're not expected to remember all this stuff. Okay, one last question. This is the last one. Khalid wants to know, what would be the example of a smallest web dev project that will impress the interviewer? I'm not sure we've had that question before. Okay, so let me pose this different. If I made tic-tac-toe, is that good? No. So it's more than tic-tac-toe. I think the basic thing here is you've got to at least have CRUD, right?
Yeah, CRUD database, and I think you can need to add security in it. So if you have your to-do list that's unverified, then it's kind of dumb. But like,
right,
yep. And a lot of people will say that that's good enough. I don't think it is. If you're just trying to get in for the first time, but you could build an address book system. That's one thing you could do. So
there you go. Not too simple, but also not.
So I can tell
complex.
you this: I am the wrong guy to ask this question to, Kevin. you know how I am.
I know, because you want like the cream of the crop, creme de la creme, just the best of the best.
Here's what I think, Khalid. I approach life differently than most. A lot of people want to approach life say, what's the least amount of effort that I can put in to get the maximum return? All right. So I'm not that person. I'm more like maximum effort to get the maximum return. So like I'm not really always optimized on the least amount of effort thing. But I also believe that when you approach it from the least amount of effort mindset, you end up falling short of the goal. So at Coder Foundry, here's the saying we tell every student: we do not do what's easiest, we do what's necessary. I think it's necessary to show a full stack web dev project with security and a database on the back end. It just so happens that a bug tracker is fantastic because someone can immediately identify with that project and go, oh, I know what that's supposed to do. Oh, that's cool. I love the way how you did that. And that is the magic to showing a bug tracker versus a small address book. So here's the problem when you show an address book. Let's say that I built an address book that had security. And my address book even did the cool things like, okay, I want you to send me an address, and I'm going to create my mailing list for my wedding, but here's my birthday party list. And I got like multiple lists going on. And I did all this complex things around an address book, and you still show it. They're going to go, it's an address book.
Right. Right.
And then you could do the same amount of work on a bug tracker, and they think the problem's harder. And it really isn't harder to solve from the ASP standpoint. It's just got more views maybe. And they'll go, oh, that's a really cool bug tracker. You could change the fields and make it an address book, and then they're going to think of it less.
Yeah.
So always think of do what's necessary, not what's easiest. So I think the proper question people trying to break in should ask is, what do I need to do to get a web dev job?
Right.
And I'll tell you what that is, what I think that is. And it's probably way more than what most people will tell you. Like, oh, you just got to build tic-tac-toe. And I'm like, man, does that really work? I don't think so. And it could in some cases, but I think what you're seeing is the person that wins with tic-tac-toe isn't really winning with tic-tac-toe. They're bringing something else to the table, either in they're walking around knowledge. They have a better than average or maybe a superior short-term memory that can just recall facts just like that. They haven't coded a lot, but man, they know every term and everything. And somehow they can get through with very simple projects. But if you're not that person and you're kind of average like all of us are, I'll consider myself like an average human. I need support when I walk in there, man. I need to show the wow. I need the wow factor. I need everything in my corner when I show that bug tracker. Like, wow, that's kind of cool. And I'll tell you this true story, Kevin. I was on the phone with someone the other day that was trying to sell Coder Foundry or something. And so I was talking to him about this. I don't want to go into the details without giving it away, but they said this is what they could do for me. And I showed them our ISA calculator, and I said, you mean like this? And he goes, where did you get that? Did you buy that? I'm like, no, I wrote that.
Right.
So they were trying to give me something similar for something else, but I wasn't bragging. I was just saying that I could tell right away I deflated his whole pitch because my thing was better than his thing. And so but you flip that around during an interview situation. Let's say that you bring in your bug tracker and it's better than the one that they have.
Yeah.
That's good for you. That's awesome.
Killer.
They're like, wow, that's amazing. So if you can always show things that you built, I think you can impress the interviewer, and that's what you're trying to do. I think you've got the second half of your question correct. What do I need to do to impress the interviewer? Yes. Remove the word smallest and just focus on what's necessary to impress the interviewer.
Okay, here's just to tack onto this too. Then we have this take, which we hear a lot. So everyone says, "I just do what I find cool and interesting. Bugcatcher is a great app, but I find it boring."
Okay, that's fine. That's fair. And
we get that a lot. But here's the thing: what you
it's
find
not about
interesting,
being boring.
It's exactly what you find interesting. Also, somebody else might find boring or so niche that it just doesn't work. Like if you want to build a application that matches up rock climbers, you both go into Everest and it's thing like, and you take that to an interview job, the guy's gonna be like, "What is this? It doesn't make any sense."
We don't do rock climbing here.
It doesn't make any sense, and that's why the bug tracker works. It's not that it's the most interesting project on the planet, or the software is inherently interesting, right? Or building it is inherently interesting. It doesn't have to be. What you're trying to do is you're trying to make that connection. It comes back to your story with your Cubs story, right? Same thing.
Yeah,
you're trying to make that connection. You're trying to make the connection with somebody and that's how it works. That's why.
And I'll say this, Maverick, without being snarky in all my world, you know what I do find interesting? A paycheck. I find that super interesting. And so when you're building this app, you should be very excited about building this app because it's going to get you a paycheck. So Maverick, if you go to work and you're working on a project that you find boring, I mean, are you going to leave or quit? Maybe some do. But I think the act of coding and building software is the fun part. I don't find it any different than building a bug tracker versus, Tinder for rock climbers. I mean, none of those two things are any different to build. You may find the subject matter more interesting over here, But like the interesting part is building apps that work and do things, and it's kind of cool. And like I find that the exciting part anyway. So
Yeah.
But understand that you find it boring, but
Would you get that like leveraged a lot though? Like,
yeah.
there's so many comments on the bug tracker. Like, bug tracker. They're like, that's boring. Why would I build that? There's already been a million of those built. Like, and I find it boring. And I only want to build passion projects. Build something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Your passion doesn't necessarily align with getting the job.
Exactly. Another thing too that I find funny about that comment is like, tell me about your passion project. You know what it's going to have, Kevin? I would bet, without even talking about your passion project, it's going to have a CRUD and an admin interface. I guarantee it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like it's going to have something where you're setting up customer, or you're setting up this, or you've got a form that people have to fill out the values, and you save it to a database. Somewhere along the way, you're going to use the exact same methodology to build that application that you would have to build the bug tracker. It's just that the bug tracker resonates more with the interviewer when they see it. They can immediately go, oh, that's cool, or they also don't discount the idea. So your idea, you built out this fantastic idea, but they may discount the idea as being trivial. Like I was saying, like even if you put AI on tic-tac-toe, which I've seen, I find that just like completely trivial. Like how hard was that to do? There's 9 squares on the page, man. I mean, like, it's like
right. And you may come up with like the next amazing tic-tac-toe AI, and you spent like it's got 5,000 lines of code, and it's like sentient almost.
Exactly.
But it doesn't really matter because it's still tic-tac-toe at the end of the day. And you're right. The person's going to discount it because it just doesn't seem great.
Yeah, I've yet to see Connect 4. I'm like, man, if we're going to go tic-tac route, just go Connect 4. I mean, that's a lot better. There's more squares. It seems is more complex. You have a lot more win conditions, a lot more lose conditions. It's a lot more complicated to build. So if
you could put a way more interesting UI on that, I think, than you could on TikTok.
The second thing is, if you're not interviewing for a game, why would you show a game to a business company? It just doesn't make sense. If you're building games and you're interviewing a game company, absolutely 100% build games.
Yeah,
you should be building games right now. But like, you shouldn't be building games expecting to work at the standard corporate America company that's building business focused apps.
Right, because that's the other thing too. When you do get the job, most of the stuff you're going to be doing isn't necessarily going to be like, it's not going to be Tinder for rock climbers. Chances are.
Yeah. I mean, it's making it work is really the satisfaction, in my opinion. Yep. All right, cool.
Okay, one shout out real quick. Hey Brian, thanks for joining us, and say hey to your mom.
Hey Brian, hey Brian's mom, how you doing?
And again, thanks to Alantino. Check that out.
Thanks for the live chats, man. That's awesome.
Thanks, Alantonio. Appreciate it. I will do my best to always try and get your name right. I'll only ever intentionally get it wrong from here on out. Promise.
Yeah.
But thank you for the super chats. We appreciate it. We'll be back on Thursday, right?
Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday.
So if you have outstanding questions and I didn't get to them, there were some at the end here that I wasn't able to get to. Come back on Thursday, same time, noon Eastern. We will be here answering more questions.
All right. See you guys later. Good luck and keep coding. We'll see you Thursday.